Hello and welcome to another edition of 310 to Left, presented by your New England Ford dealer and F-Series, the best-selling truck in America for 48 years and the official truck of the Boston Red Sox. Tom Caron along with Alex Speier here at Fenway Park. It's been quite a week, quite a homestand, right? It's you had the walk-off on Saturday night, and everybody was excited about that. Didn't really lead to anything on Sunday, but this Mets series has been a lot of fun. It's been interesting, it's been wild, and it's been really impressive work by the bullpen.
Some pretty interesting energy around Fenway Park for a couple of days. I mean, good enough to get the two of us together in person, so that's saying something. But yeah, I mean, it's been in some ways a continuation of a bit of the roller coaster that the Red Sox season has been, in this kind of like gravitational pull towards 500, and at the same time, like, there are these hints that, seeing a couple of days where they're shutting down an opposing offense in just complete fashion and getting kind of the Johnny Holstaff contribution, where everyone is able to be a significant contributor to a couple of competitive, tough wins. That's three out of 5 games in which the Red Sox have claimed wins the hard way in different ways, and against teams that are really good and that should be playoff caliber. And so, yeah, it does feel like that's at least a reminder to the team of what it's capable of, if not a certainty about exactly where it's going. And
around all of this, through all of this, the daily watch of Kristian Campbell learning the position at first base started right in front of us on an AstroTurf mat, worked his way to dirt. Now he's been out there at first base, by all accounts, making a progression and improving in footwork and learning the position. We'll hear from him in a little bit. We'll hear from Marcelo Mayer, who is directly affected, one would think, by that process. We'll listen to what Craig Breslow said about it all. But it's very interesting to have something so visible happening as kind of a sideshow around the main event.
Yeah, the whole position change thing is always a really interesting thing to watch unfolding in front of you, because there's a lot of stuff that can happen behind the scenes when you're talking about swing adjustments or adjustments to pitch grips are happening out of plain view because they're off in the distance in the bullpen, and we aren't seeing those up close. As opposed to one day on Friday, we walk out and there is Kristian Campbell holding a tiny first baseman's trainer's mitt that does not belong to him. It is the property of first base and infield coach Jose Flores, and trying to figure out what it means to find the bag with your foot while you're receiving a throw, and going through the very early stages of the footwork and the positioning to have this apprenticeship. And it comes, of course, at a time that's where it's a hard part of the rookie schedule for him as well. After having such a spectacular month of April, he's struggling offensively, but the Red Sox are confident in his ability to walk and chew gum, so kind of work through the struggles offensively that he's dealing with in a way that he's never had to as a professional, while also picking up a new position. Interesting dynamic.
No doubt about that. And a guy who has what we're told, a high acumen to learn new positions, as he's played everywhere but catcher and pitcher and has no interest in learning either of those positions. I think the Red Sox are perfectly fine at those two positions as well. But interesting, right? We've talked about Campbell as an option here for a long time. And oh, by the way, Rafael Devers is currently giving you David Ortiz level production at designated hitter. So if there really was an ongoing conversation, and we'll be told, you'll hear in a minute, there are ongoing conversations ongoing. But why would you do it? It's like we used to talk about with David Ortiz, right?
Yeah.
David Ortiz could play first base.
Yeah.
But why would you ask him to do something when he was so good at what he does? I feel we're getting into that territory with Rafi Devers.
Well, and it's driven a lot by the player. Like, for a while, David Ortiz hated being a DH, right? For literally years, he was kind of embarrassed that he no longer had a defensive position. He kept the glove around, and then over time, he was like, I am very happy not having to pick up that glove on a day-after-day basis, to the point where it was the interleague novelty of, oh, David, you're going to play first base for 2 out of 3 games, never 3 in a row. So I think that Devers is making a very interesting statement with his bat about a role where he's been exceptional. Like, this hasn't just been good, this has been the best that we have ever seen him hitting, right? Like, on a sustained basis, to see the combination of dominance of the strike zone and just detonating pitches that are inside of it, it is something to behold. So there's kind of the risk-reward calculus. Would it be great for the Red Sox if you were able to add in the element of flexibility to put him at first base if he was also doing that? Sure. Is there a risk involved with changing his routine figuring out whether or not that can happen? Sure. So when someone is doing something in such spectacular fashion, you're probably a little bit conservative about taking risks to jeopardize it.
Talking about David Ortiz not wanting to grab a glove. Back to Kristian Campbell real quickly. He does have a glove now. He's not using the trainer anymore. Does not have his name on it. He says the custom one takes a little time. But he said they come out of the box almost broken in now. He said they're pretty easy to get.
Great job, technology, but also this is a good indication of Kristian Campbell. When you arrive as a top prospect in the big leagues and then immediately sign a contract, you have very responsive equipment companies.
But as Josh Smith will tell you, those pockets are big. You don't even know when they're in there sometimes, right? Was it Josh Smith who was looking around after he caught the line drive?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So
you do periodically see a guy looking around and wondering where to scramble, even though the answer is
cavernous pockets. These major league gloves have, or at least first baseman's may. Anyway, let's get into all this, the various aspects and angles and storylines under this potential move. But let's begin with the appearance on the pregame show the other night from Craig Breslow, Chief Baseball Officer. The conversation began, of course, with Kristian Campbell's work at first base. Here it is on 310 Left, presented by your New England Ford dealers. Joining us now, Chief Baseball Officer Craig Breslow, as he does throughout the season. A lot of talk about Kristian Campbell putting in the work at first base, kind of very publicly, because there's not a lot of places here at Fenway to hide to go do that work, right? Talk a little about that process for a new guy. And one thing I've heard from a lot of people about Campbell is his ability to adapt to different, right? He's already learned different positions. Why was he a good candidate for first base, and how's it gone so far in the work?
Yeah, I think there are a couple things that work in his favor. He's versatile. He's played a bunch of positions. He played a bunch of positions last year at multiple stops. He's incredibly athletic, and he works really, really hard. He's a guy that I think for a long time the PD group had praised for his ability to make adjustments in real time, and we're seeing that just over the course of a couple of days, talking to Flo and the Infield group. Where he was 3 or 4 days ago relative to where he is now has been really, really impressive, to the point that they're obviously working on fielding ground balls and footwork, but they're starting to introduce some of the nuance around playing first base, some of the decision making and where you need to be on cutoffs and relays and those types of things.
Is there a timetable, maybe not for him right now per se, but for this in general, like going into this? Is there sort of a blueprint you look at, or is it really day-to-day, the improvement you're seeing and setting up next steps?
Yeah, I don't think there's a playbook for this. We're going to lean on Kristian's feedback and the evaluation of the group, and we'll make a decision together about if and when this becomes viable.
Over the weekend, Alex Cora said, he'd love to get a 10-run lead or something to give him the ability to go out there. If you got that tonight or tomorrow, is he there yet, or is it still working?
I think that's a decision that I would largely leave in the hands of the coaching staff. And, obviously the leeway that a 10-run lead can provide you gives us a chance to test that a little bit, where it's not super high leverage and the game isn't on the line. I'm not sure we're quite there yet, but I do think we're making quite a bit of progress.
You'll take a 10-run lead anytime you can get it.
Absolutely.
I thought that would be the case. We are seeing incredible production from Rafael Devers right now. It's sort of David Ortiz type DH stuff. Mm-hmm. Does that change the narrative about whether or not he is someone to consider at first base when a guy is going go back to David Ortiz, right? He could play first base, but he did so well as a designated hitter, nobody really wanted to mess with that. Does a guy sort of get to that position? Where's Devers at with that right now? Does this change anything?
Well, I think the first thing is you're exactly right. The offensive production that we've gotten out of Rafi, really since the second week of the season has been incredible. And even in the first week of the season where he was struggling with swings and misses, he never really expanded out of the zone. So you knew at some point he was going to get himself on time and he was going to start to produce. And the fact that, he's making great swing decisions, he's not expanding outside of the zone, coupled with being on time and hitting the ball really hard, makes him a really, really, really impressive offensive threat. Now, as it relates to, playing first base and a potential transition, I'm always going to be anchored to exploring possibilities that I think are best for the team. And best for the team sometimes means making a decision, and sometimes it means not making a decision or allowing the status quo to remain. So the conversations will continue to happen internally, and ultimately we're going to kind of be anchored to what we think is best.
Have there been any conversations with Rafi about it over the recent days?
I've had conversations with Rafi. I've had conversations with all of the guys on the team. At the same time, I think it's best right now to keep those internal and just to give some space and distance to some of those.
Alex Cora missing yesterday for a really important day for his family. Talk a little about how the organization allows players, allows management, that work-life balance that can really make a difference to someone over the course of a long season.
Yeah, no, I mean, this job is such that, when you give your life to baseball, it can be all-consuming, and it's really, really important organizationally, and I feel it's really important personally that we recognize that we're people, and, above all else, Alex and I, we're dads, right? We're fathers, and, I was wildly supportive of Alex attending Camilla's graduation, and, I've got 3 kids of my own. I don't plan to miss their graduation, so, that was a really special moment for him. It was a special moment for Camilla, and the fact that he had to defend that decision is ridiculous.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Here on that. Alex Bregman here with Juan Soto here right now. So there's a lot of talk about the revisiting discussions this winter. You guys were in on Soto. You signed Bregman. There are opt-outs with Bregman. But when you've got a guy performing as well as Alex Bregman is, anytime you have somebody like that and there's a possibility to opt out, is that something you sort of kick the tires on and talk about the future? Is that an ongoing conversation? Is it not something that usually comes in during the course of a season? Sort of take us in when you have a player in that situation who has the ability to leave. How do you sort of handle that as the season progresses?
Yeah, I guess just as there's no set playbook for in-season transition to first base, there's really no set playbook for, conversations about players with opt-outs. The one thing that we are really excited about is the fact that Alex is a member of the Red Sox, and he has been better than advertised in terms of the fit on the team and the fit on the field and also in the clubhouse. We see what a great match he is for this park and as a leader in the clubhouse. So those conversations, if and when the time is appropriate, we'll explore. But right now we know that he's a member of the Red Sox for 2025, and we're really, really grateful for that.
Walker Buehler back tonight, was really hitting his stride, it looked like, over the last 3-4 starts before the injury. Seems like kind of dodged a bullet that the injury, the bursitis, was not that bad.
Yeah, and even when he went on the IL, he was pretty adamant that this was, more of a hiccup than a true hurdle. And just given where we were in the season, it made more sense to be proactive and give him a chance to catch his breath and recover. He had strung together, some impressive outings and was building momentum. Hopefully he can pick back up on that tonight.
Good stuff. We appreciate the visit, Greg. Thanks.
Thank you.
So a lot of interesting stuff there from Breslow, but most notably that the ongoing conversations are ongoing.
Ongoing is ongoing. We're in a very meta world. Maybe Gertrude Stein can write a whole thing about a continuous present being a continuous present, but yeah, here we are.
That was deep.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that. But
310 to left goes deeper than anyone realized.
Yeah, that's true. It goes 310 exactly to left.
310 what, Tom?
310 feet? I hit a ball. I was golfing today, and it wasn't 310 anything. It was 300. It hit 310
Here,
trees.
I thought you wanted to see me. The reality is that we're filming
it's back
together.
At golf.
Because,
300. No, that's why we're not doing this morning. I had to golf. I told you I had a very important meeting I had to get to.
Doctor's appointment, I think.
No, I didn't say doctor's appointment.
Okay.
That was last week.
Appointment.
I don't use the same excuse twice. And last week was a doctor's appointment. I need a swing doctor.
Okay.
Does that count?
Sure.
No. The thing of all this is that it could happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, don't you feel now that we're at the yellow light standby, the airplane door is open, you're going to jump anytime, which means down in Worcester, and we'll get to Marcelo Mayer in a couple moments, but they're kind of on standby too. I feel like everyone feels it's a very short window that we're going to have this happen.
Yeah, those gears are definitely interconnected. If Kristian Campbell shows that he can play first base, then I think it's pretty clear that the corresponding development would be Marcelo Mayer coming up and playing. They're sure gearing him to play second base in the big leagues right now. And it is not a coincidence that same day that Kristian Campbell starts taking ground balls at first base, Marcelo Mayer is in the lineup at second base. And since then, the plan for him is to get at least 3 to 4 games a week at second base with the Woo Sox and get comfortable at that position, although he is, according to his manager in AAA, Chad Tracy, comfy at the position already.
But all of this happens while Kristian Campbell is struggling at the plate.
Correct.
And then we see him in center field the other night where he's removed for defensive replacement. And, Ramon Vasquez is doing the very fatherly sort of conversation. there's a lot going on for a guy who a month ago seemed like the first rookie in history who would never have to deal with an adjustment and never go through a slump. Well, now you're going through what most major leaguers have to go through, but maybe more because so much is swirling around him now.
Yeah, it's a very difficult thing to understand what exactly that could be like, especially when you're kind of, your confidence takes a hit in a way that you haven't probably experienced before, certainly as a professional, because Kristian Campbell was nothing but good last year. It is worth noting that there was some value in the fact that he struggled a little bit at the start of spring training and had to work his way out. So there is kind of a precedent. And how do you get out of it? You work. You remain disciplined. You trust in your processes, trust in your talent level, and you work. And so Kristian Campbell, going to work.
All right, let's listen in on some of that work. Jose Flores works with the infielders, working with Kristian Campbell and the other first baseman. But we had him mic'd up, wired up Wednesdays as we have on our NESN broadcasts. Want to listen to that and then listen to the brief conversation I had with Kristian Campbell about the ongoing work. So all of that right now here on 310 to Left, presented by your New England Ford dealers.
Look lonely? Wait on the guys, they should be popping up here. There he is. How's that thing coming along?
Good.
Let me see it.
I just got it up on steamer. I've been working on it. It's warm right now. So
Oh, you got it on the steamer?
yeah. So
Oh, this is ready to go.
yeah, I've been working on it. I've been trying to get it right.
It's ready to go.
Trying to break it in and stuff. I think it's good. Even coffee, so
Yeah. That's nice. Good. Land catch. Yeah. Good. Left foot to where the ball takes you. Good. All right. Do some simulation as if you were coming off the bag holding a runner at first. Couple to the forehand side. Good. Good. All right, get back. Go out there. Real baseballs, a couple of catches, and a couple of picks. Yep. So on that one right there, Casey, if you are high, it's a little bit tougher to catch. That's why I ask you when you approach the bag to have your upper body just be in an athletic position, because if you're too tall, you have to travel long and that ball's staying up in the air and it's hard to catch.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So if you're here, you'll be able to time it better and see if you can actually catch it up in the air or wait until it gives you a shorter hop for you to be able to catch it. So you decide what you want to do, but you'll be in a better position to do that.
right. Okay.
Yeah, right there. There you go. Better. Good. That's a sinker right there.
That was a sinker. Yeah.
Nasty. Uh-huh. Ask Torre if he likes those. He doesn't like those either. Those are the toughest ones. Yeah.
You come out to this one?
Very nice. Like it. All right. I like it. You see that glove coming along? He's put it on the steamer for the last 72 hours.
You got it?
No.
I got it.
Look at it.
2 days ago, maybe.
3 days ago.
And it was
Look
tied.
at it. He needs to tie it up. It's ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is nice. You feel that?
That's a good glove.
Put it on the steamer. 2 days. So when you do, well, not today, but probably tomorrow, I'm going to have you take grounders off the flip fungo at first base with a second baseman in there, kind of like you see what Sogi went through yesterday with Hammy. he realized Hammy was there on that ball, so he just peeled back and went straight to first base instead of going after the ball and then the pitcher having to come on the run from the mound after making a pitch to cover first base, which is tougher. We'll probably do some of those. So you kind of like play and decide what you can do on that certain type of ground ball depending on where the second baseman is playing at.
You can almost get to the point where, because we play off the bag,
Yeah.
so you'll be pretty much where like I feel like what helped me with it is if it's not hit hard, like that's right at you, like if it's hit soft to your right, you can almost leave it every time.
Because you're going to have the second baseman coming to get it.
It's like the harder one that you know that
If it's like hook low line, you know, 'cause
Yeah.
it's only with a lefty, because a righty to second base is right. So it's like the hooking hard one, yeah, you can go for it. But other than that, it's like you just leave it if it's too right.
And then left-handed hitter, if you guys are playing pool and you know that the second baseman is 10 feet from you, if it's Hammy that he's got, you know, really good first step and a lot of range, then you can say, hey, forget about it. This is Hammy's, I'm going to cover first base. That means we're keeping the pitcher away from the plate.
Back in center field tonight, we were just talking about the wind. Like, how much does that factor in? How different has Fenway Park been from other places you've played as far as that wind goes out there? Because it's such, the dimensions of it are weird to begin with. Then you throw in the wind. How tough is that?
Right. It usually blows to right field whenever it's blowing here, but it's you just gotta know which way it's going, whether you're hitting or in the field. In the field, you gotta know when the ball's hit up in the air, it's gonna start going the opposite way that you think it's going. So it knocked down a lot of stuff. We saw that yesterday. A lot of balls got knocked out the air. And it's just something to know.
First base, the work you've been putting in. Talk a little about that. You know, you said it's learning another position. You've done that before at other positions. What's been the sort of biggest adjustment or the biggest learning stuff that you've gone through here in the early days of it?
I think the good thing about first base is that I'm learning it for the first time, so I'm learning how to do it the right way the first time. Instead of having to be corrected from the ways I've learned it previously. So it's been a good adjustment so far. I've just been practicing every day with flow, and it's been coming along great.
The progression of it, does it start, like where does it start? Is the footwork, because everybody talks about the footwork more than anything. Does it begin there? And then, the glove work, I feel, is something that's probably somewhat instinctual for you because you've been an infielder, you've been an outfielder, you're good with the glove, but what's the footwork been like?
The footwork hasn't been terrible. Kind of like you said, I've been an infielder before, so I kind of know what to expect when it comes to maybe certain plays that I expect a hop or a bad hop or I expect a short throw. Just having feel for the other infielders around me because I know what it's like to make a backhand jump throw. You're not going to make it to me all the time, so I got to get out there, try my best to pick it.
You also know the importance of the first baseman from throwing it to him, right?
Yeah, exactly.
How serious do you take that part of it? Like, you're kind of the guy who can pick up your teammates.
Like on double plays and stuff like that. I'm second baseman, shortstop coming up, and I know exactly what it's like to get tough throws from a first baseman in the past, not here. But and just try to give them the best feed I can because I know how important that is for them to be able to turn it around right back to me.
Learning a new position is one thing, but you're kind of doing it in a very visible area. Everyone's talking about first base, right? Have you been able to sort of keep your head down and just get the work in and not let all the noise sort of become part of it?
Yeah, for sure. I just try to focus on what I'm doing each day at a time, and I'm focused on literally each day when it comes to hitting, fielding, running the bases, literally anything. Just developing as a baseball player as a whole. Over
the last 2 years, I know talking to a lot of the Red Sox people, your baseball IQ and your ability to learn new things, right? Like, you kind of changed your swing. You did a lot to get here as quickly as you did. Do you think that helps you, that you do sort of have that adaptability when you try something new?
Yeah, for sure. I just try to be coachable as much as possible and learn as much as I can. So I'm always prepared when I go out on the field. I don't have to think twice about what I'm doing. But yeah, that's always been a thing of mine. Try to be as coachable as possible.
You put your head on the pillow at night, you close your eyes. What position are you dreaming of?
I don't even know. Not pitcher and not catcher. I know that. That's the only two I'm not really thinking of.
Lobby for that. Don't ever do that. All in all, the adjustment was inevitable, right? You know what I mean? Pitchers sort of get the book out on you now. Talk a little about that now. What's next for you? How do you make the adjustment to counter their adjustment, if you will?
Right. Just look into it, talk to the hitting coaches about it. Just take it one game at a time, one pitcher at a time. Know what they're good at, know what I'm good at, and trying to come up with a plan to help me be successful up at the plate. And really just stay confident as much as possible because making an adjustment can be tough, but it's what I have to do to continue to be successful. So I'm looking forward to it.
Sitting here as a member of the Boston Red Sox, still pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah, it's all part of developing and getting better. So it's all new to me, and take it one step at a time.
So there it is, Kristian Campbell talking about the work, seems to be feeling comfortable. We heard Craig Breslow talking about how he's making progressions. All signs are he is adapting to the work quite well.
Yeah, and the fact that Alex Cora said that he would already be comfortable using him in a game, albeit in a blowout situation. Nice. Yes, you were right, Tom. I think that they would enjoy a 10-run lead
at any time for any reasons. But another reason to add to that list is a chance to get Kristian Campbell into a game.
Yeah, but it is noteworthy that they're willing to take that next step of giving him in-game exposure at the position, because that is just a world of difference. I will say it's super interesting that the Red Sox are at a point where their pregame defensive work doesn't involve doing things like taking infield, taking outfield, right? So there was a time when I feel like the structure of teams' days might have permitted a little bit of a faster transition in terms of learning some of those nuances of the position, because even though it's not at game speed, you would be exposed to group defense, and now that's pretty limited, and so that's an interesting element in it, but when you get a technical foundation that it at least gives you a place where you can plausibly be in the game and start learning to react. So that's why you look for that kind of lopsided game situation in order to give that first exposure.
So the subplot to all of this is second base becoming open. And we've seen David Hamilton. He's actually hitting quite well. But we know Marcelo Mayer, like Roman Anthony, seems to be pretty much ready to get that level up and a chance to show himself at the next step, which would be second base here if Kristian Campbell would move to first base. What to make of that move? Not just Mayer getting the promotion ultimately, but a move over to second base, which we saw at the very end of spring training. Yeah. And now we're seeing in Worcester. You were there. You got to watch him. Yeah,
I got to spend yesterday around him. Defensively, he knows what he's doing. He actually did make an error on a ball that kind of hopped up over his glove, but his hands are great. That's the least of the concerns. And just in terms of where he was positioning himself on different plays, the way that he was positioning his body on throws, when depending on if he was moving to his right or left, he's going to, in all likelihood, be just fine at second base. There's not too much of a transition time there, and I think that, in fact, when you have a shortstop someone who you're comfortable with having the attributes of a big league shortstop, that you move to second base, usually there can be a pretty reasonable expectation that you're going to have an above-average defender at second base. This is not kind of learning a new language. This is not going from, first base has a unique set of responsibilities. This isn't crossing the diamond and having just a completely divorced set of angles that you're navigating, or changing the speed of the game. This is very different, and he looks fine at second base. They have no qualms about that, I don't think. He's still learning there, but he's in a good spot, and so it's offense. And a hot Marcelo Mayer, he's still going through growing pains where there's going to be ups and downs, but the upside there when he's in a good spot is pretty considerable.
All right, well, let's get to the conversation you had with him, and then we'll follow up with that. But here's Alex talking to Marcelo Mayer out of Polar Park. Us on 310 to Left, presented by New England Ford Dealers and F-Series, the best-selling truck in America for the last 48 years.
Joined on 310 to Left by Marcelo Mayer, currently of the Red Sox. Marcelo, great to see you. How's life going? How's the 2025 season treating you at this point?
Good to see you too. It's been good. Just enjoying the journey. Having a great time. I'm blessed to play baseball every day, so I'm super thankful. And having a great time so far.
It's been an interesting little ripple in the force, as far as I can tell, because last week, first of all, Tristan Casas going down. You got to spend a lot of time with Tristan in spring training, and that's awful to see. But there are dominoes that follow that, right? And so the most recent one is all of a sudden we're watching Kristian Campbell taking ground balls at first base, and so the thought bubble goes off, are we going to start seeing Marcelo at second base? Sure enough, we're seeing Marcelo at second base. Let's start with a practical question. How do you feel at second base? How natural an adaptation is that for someone who's spent most of their life at shortstop?
I feel good. It feels normal. I pride myself on defense a lot, so obviously it's a little bit different with the angles and stuff, but it's something that I feel like I've picked up pretty quickly.
I thought in spring training that I was trying to make sense of, okay, how is it going to look when you slide over there? There was one game at the end of spring training, and it was like a natural backhand flip, and no problem. Were you a guy who bounced around the field as a kid, or were you always locked in at shortstop?
I I'd say 95% of my life I've played short. Obviously, with that being said, I have played some second. I've played some third base, even a little bit of outfield. But most of my life has been at short. But I feel comfortable playing really any position on the field.
Did the thought bubble go off in your head when they're like, we're going to look at you a little bit more, like either when you saw Campbell taking, maybe you saw a video of Campbell taking grounders at first, maybe when Chad Tracy came over and said, we're going to give you a little bit more run at second base. Did the thought bubble go off that like, oh, there is a reason for them doing this, and it likely relates to the possibility of finding a pathway to the big leagues pretty soon?
Yeah, I mean, it only makes sense to put those together. They told me last week that I was going to start getting a few more reps at second. KC obviously has been working at first base. So for me, it's just doing whatever I can every single day to get ready over there. So when my time comes, I'm able to help the team.
I mean, a lot of being in AAA involves wondering, right? And like not being able to control the circumstances of like, this thing that you want so badly that seems so close at hand, right? Does it change the dynamic of being, of the day-to-day when all of a sudden there are circumstances where it's like, oh, there's some movement happening around me that could kind of help to define, makes it seem a little bit closer?
Not really. I think the work stays the same always, whether if I'm one day away from the big leagues or 5 years away from the big leagues. The work stays the same. When I'm at the field, I'm trying to get better that second. I've told you in every single interview we talk about where my feet are, which is what I'm doing. I'm having a great time here with all my teammates, and I'm working really hard wherever that is. So I'm super excited for what's to come.
You have told me in every interview, like, kudos for consistency, by the way.
Nice.
Yeah, no, you've been solid on it. The one moment where there was like on opening day here, after you had such a good spring training, like you were candid and said like, I feel like I showed that I belong in the big leagues, and they made a decision that I'm not, but that doesn't change how you feel about it. Is that something that have you carried that forward from spring training? Do you like on a day-to-day basis, do you view yourself, do you think through, I'm a major league caliber player in AAA, or do you just, is being where your feet are to just say I'm in AAA until they say otherwise?
I think that's a good question. I think to me, every single day that I wake up, I'm a big leaguer. That's just the way that I go about it, the way that I approach everything that I do. That starts from even in the off season, the way that I train. Every single day I wake up, go to the gym. I'm a big leaguer that day. So I think for me that mindset's only going to help me translate easier. But that's just my mentality. Obviously, I know I'm not a big leaguer. But yeah, that's just the way that I think.
It had struck me like you had been like joyful throughout spring training, right? And it's a really cool experience. It's your first big league spring training camp. The opportunities that you're given, the dynamic, like the people that you're working with are different than what you've ever experienced before. There was a little part of me that was like when you talked in those terms on opening day, I was like, oh, the thing that helped get Marcelo off to an amazing start in 2024 was having like a chip. There was like a chip or an edge. Have you carried a chip this year? Do you like to have a chip in your to push you into from a developmental standpoint?
I think so a little bit. I think just the biggest thing is just going out there and playing as hard as I possibly could and letting whatever happens, and then doing it again the next day. You can't really control the outcome of your performance. What you can control is how hard you're going to play and the effort you put in. So for me, it's just going out there and playing the game that I know how to play and to my highest ability. If I have a good day, I have a good day. If not, turn the page and play again tomorrow. But I think it's always good to play a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, yeah.
It's been a really interesting offensive year for you. First of all, like the context of AAA, people should appreciate like cold weather, tough. Like AAA, like you have weird strike zone things that you're adapting to with the automatic balls and strike, or rather the challenge system that exists here. Like it's a different strike zone than you've played with in the past, although somewhat similar to spring training. But still, there's some newness to it. There are different caliber pitchers. Felt like there was a little bit of a transition, like at the beginning of the season, like not a long one, and then you caught fire. How well during that period of roughly 3 weeks when I think you hit like 5-7 homers over the course of something like an 18-game period, and it felt like you were driving in a run or two every game. How close was that to the best level of baseball that you have played professionally?
Really close. I mean, I'd say that's probably the best, couple of weeks I've ever had in my career. Obviously, coming up here from Florida, it's extremely cold. I think that kind of got to me a little bit. The first couple of games, had a really long talk with my hitting coaches, with my dad back home one day, and then made a few swing adjustments. And ever since then, I've felt really good in the box.
Dad is still part of the swing of the Marcelo swing team?
Every day, yeah. We talk baseball every day.
Yeah, like how great is that to have a resource of a father who is able to give you to see, like, to truly know the most minute details of your swing.
I mean, it's so huge. I mean, I can't even explain how grateful I am to have my dad there with me. He's been my fielding coach, my hitting coach, base running coach ever since I was 5 years old. So, when you're around somebody that much, my dad probably knows me more than I know myself. So, when you know somebody that well and you've worked with somebody that long, like, you just know the cues and you know what to say at the right time. So, to me, that's huge, and I'm super grateful for it.
What's the mental cue that, like, kind of unlocked you during that really exceptional streak? What was the thought process? What are you trying to do? Like, what are you trying to do to the baseball when you are locked in?
I mean, it was a super small adjustment. I think I was just coming out and around my swing a little bit too much, focused on staying inside and through the ball just a little bit more, starting with my bat angle in my stance. And, I think that made a really big adjustment. From there, you start to work on things and you start to fix things little by little. But, yeah, I think that was the biggest adjustment.
What's the biggest thing developmentally that you want to do that's going to put you in an even better position, either to get to the big leagues or to be successful or to, be able to sustain success when you're up there?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that you could do to improve. That's kind of the beauty of being in AAA. You kind of have that leeway to, work on things a little bit more and struggle and, kind of find yourself in the box defensively because, you're not playing every single game to necessarily win or to win a World Series. So I think every single day there's just something you could work on. Obviously for me lately it's just been swing decisions, making sure my swing decisions are on point. I think if I can control the zone and get good pitches to hit, I'm going to be successful.
How often do you think about what it's going to be like to get the call?
Every day. Yeah. I mean, as a player, that's something that I've thought about every single day since, I was a little kid watching, games on the television with my family or going to Padre games. It's just something that, you work so hard for every single day and you just hope that one day it's going to come true.
How much how much have you enjoyed going through this with Roman and to be back at another level, like right? Like the two of you together are, through your performance, through what you're doing on the field, not just through your reputation, kind of making a pretty compelling case, right? Like how special is that to be able to do that with him?
It's good. I mean, anytime you could share the field with a player like Roman, it's really special. Obviously, we've became really close over the last 2 years, so just to have a friend like that, living with you, being with you every single day, only makes you better.
Marcelo, great to see you. It is obviously a super interesting time where, it's. Do you enjoy the fact that there's this attention that there's that Red Sox fans are kind of like on a daily basis being like, when's Marcelo coming up? Is that, or are you trying to find ways of tuning that out?
I think at this point I'm just so used to it. Being in this org as long as I have and kind of being a top prospect as long as I have, there's always going to be noise, and it's something that I've kind of dealt with since I'm in high school, so it's pretty normal to me now.
Very good. Well, I've gotten to see you at the last two Futures games, but I think that it would probably be much to your delight if you don't three-peat in that. Instead have kind of the next challenge in front of you. So
no more Futures games. If they ask me to go, I'm not going. So
you would like the future to be now, I think.
Yeah.
Marcelo, great to see you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks, Alex.
So there will be no Back to the Future for Marcelo Mayer. That seems pretty clear.
The future is now. Or at least he hopes very, very soon.
Yeah.
And a lot of people around the Woo Sox seem to think that this is, something that he's ready for. and I think that around the organization, once you saw the switch flip and that you did see that exposure to second base, everyone kind of understands that you are being prepped for a potential call-up that could happen in the very near future.
He had such a good spring training.
Yeah, great.
I mean, he really did,
Yeah.
right? And
he was the best player in camp.
He was the best player in camp. I keep saying that, not prospect.
Yeah.
Best player.
Correct.
In camp. And obviously he didn't make the team out of camp. He had never played a AAA game. He's got that now, right?
Yeah.
Closing in on 2 months of experience at the AAA level. Now a position that could get him here on track. Alex Cora even talks about, they will let you know when they're ready. And now he's asked, what more do they need to know? And he basically says, well, now there needs to be an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
They have let us know. But he and Roman Anthony clearly are ready if you can find a way. Roman Anthony's going to be tougher as presently constructed. But right now, that second base is a great opportunity for Mayer to come up and stay up.
It is really interesting because I would say that Roman Anthony, in terms of offensive approach, is more ready than Marcelo Mayer is right now. What Roman Anthony is doing in terms of controlling the strike zone and then hitting the stuffing out of the ball on a very consistent basis is remarkable. He looks very clearly like the best prospect in all of baseball, and just screaming like there's not a lot more that AAA can do for me. But, you're at a moment in time where Cedar Rafaela is having just about as good an offensive month as he's ever had in his Major League Baseball career, where Jarren Duran is starting to turn it on. Plus, he was a top 10 MVP guy last year. And Wilyer Abreu has shown you flashes of being a potential all-star, at least above average everyday regular. So the opportunity is tricky. Right now, there is an avenue for it to be at second base. Marcelo Mayer still has things that are clearly areas of development right now. More consistency in terms of swing decisions and controlling the strike zone is a big one, which is why he's had a little bit of an up and down season. Like when he was hot and locked in, which was late April to early May, it was remarkable. He was blistering balls, but now he's been in a little bit of a funk over the last couple of weeks. He's also been in really cold weather. That doesn't help. And then left on left is going to be. That's been the strikeout to walk rate in the minors is pretty extremely skewed, where you wonder whether or not he would come up and whether they would play him against lefties, which is not uncommon, right? Like a lot of really good, talented position players get to sit, against their same-handed side of the platoon, just because it's good to be able to step back and take stock of what's happening to you in the big leagues. But that said, there is so much talent, and there's refinement to happen, but there's enough of a baseline defensively with enough promise offensively that's a path for the Red Sox perhaps to upgrade.
I want to touch back on Anthony real quick because you've done such a great job covering the minors for a long time. Is this as good as anybody you've seen as a minor league hitter?
This is as good a prospect as I've ever seen the Red Sox have. I was just having this conversation very recently. Like Roman Anthony right now is a better prospect than Mookie Betts was when he was on the cusp of the big leagues, because Mookie, we knew that he was going to be able to hit, and we knew that he was going to be able to shapeshift and be able to plug in at different positions very well, and that he'd be an impact runner. We didn't know if there was going to be power there. We thought maybe a bunch of doubles and create energy, like maybe kind of an all-star ceiling. Didn't know that he had a superstar ceiling because the power hadn't shown up like this in the minors. And then Mookie Betts decides, I can make some nice little swing adjustments, and look at me, I'm a 30 home run hitter. Go Mookie. Roman Anthony right now has screamingly loud tools. The ability to manage at-bats that suggest an ability to be a middle-of-the-order guy from an on-base percentage or top-of-the-order guy from on-base percentage, with the ability to make resounding contact as a 21-year-old and absolutely, just like crush baseballs. He already has what would grade as probably on the 20 to 80 scouting scale, maybe like 70 raw power. He's still growing into more strength because he literally just turned 21 last week.
Right.
So the combination of those elements plus, good athleticism, good feel for the game, that makes him that gives a clear path to superstardom that probably exceeds that of just about any other prospect who I've seen coming through the Red Sox system. And there have been some really good ones, but I think that his ceiling is like the relative proximity of his ceiling and floor is narrower for a potential superstar than I've seen from a Red Sox prospect.
All right, and wrapping it up here with just a couple minutes left. we are a third of the way through the season, or we will be this weekend. At some point, when they get 3 or 4 against the Orioles, it'll be the third. And there's the old saying, right? 1/3 of the season, you figure out what a team is. 1/3 of the season, you address the needs. 1/3 of the season, you go for it.
Yeah.
So we're a third in. What are the Red Sox?
TBD. We don't know yet. Sometimes a third of the season, Tom, is not enough.
It's like filing an extension on your taxes. You
Tom,
just need
I think that I
submitted.
I think I got an extension on every paper that I turned in college, so I am the right person to turn to for that assignment.
That's because, and you probably got an A on every paper you ever turned in. I, on the other
False.
hand, was on time.
Ah.
There just weren't a lot of A's. But yeah, sometimes you rush it just to get it in.
Learn different skills, develop in different ways. But yeah, I mean, the Red Sox are not. We don't know because they haven't been able to. We've seen flashes of a team that could be really, really good, right? Like especially. We're getting some strong glimpses from the bullpen. We've seen the starting rotation be excellent at times. I think that this is going to be a very good lineup once the summer gets going, once the weather gets long, and once the weather gets warmer, and it's possible for them to get on a sustained roll, but that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I agree, by the way. I think we haven't seen the team at its best. That is why I do still think what this team is, a third of the way in, is a playoff team.
Yeah.
Because I think we haven't seen them at their best, and they've been able to weather that storm and still
Right.
hover around 500 and still be right in the middle of any kind of wild card race you want to talk about, or even the American League East, because nobody's really run away with it. So I think when this team puts it together, unlike last year where you looked at them at 500 and said, oh, they're kind of overachieving. This is a 500 team that's underachieving. So one would think the best games are ahead of it, which would be good.
Yeah, well, it better be. This better be the underachievement, right? This better be the floor because it is now the case that they have to be 20 games over 500 moving forward in order to be a playoff team.
That's exactly right.
That's a high standard to keep.
It is indeed, as is this, the 310 to Left experience. We appreciate you joining us. I hope you enjoyed the week. We'll be back on Memorial Day. We'll tape on Memorial Day. So we'll be back on Tuesday next week. Short week for everybody, not for us, as the Red Sox will be in Milwaukee. First, you got to wrap up things with Baltimore over the weekend. They'll hit the 1/3 mark, and we'll see you next week on another edition of 310 to Left, presented by your New England Ford dealers and F-Series, the best-selling truck in America for 48 years, and the official truck of the Boston Red Sox. For Alex Speier and everyone here, I'm Tom Caron. We'll see you next time.